In a quiet corner of the world, where the sky looked like brushed velvet and the stars hung low like silver seeds, there was a village called Lunara. It was not marked on any map. In fact, travelers often walk straight past it without ever knowing, because Lunara only appeared to those who carried a little worry in their heart and a little hope in their pocket. Every home in Lunara was built from polished wood that shimmered blue when the moonlight touched it, and at the center of the village stood a tall, ancient tower with a lantern at its peak, an enormous glass sphere that glowed softly like a sleeping firefly. They called it the Lantern of the Last Horizon. The story began with a boy named Orin. He was not brave, not magical, not chosen by prophecy. He was simply curious, the kind of curious that could not ignore a flicker of light where no light should be, or a whisper of wind that carried no breeze. Orin lived with his grandmother, Mira, a gentle woman whose hair looked like a soft cloud and whose stories wrapped around Orin like warm blankets on cold nights. Mira always told him, "The lantern guides those who have lost their way, not their path, Orin, but their heart." But Orin never understood what that meant. One evening, after the sun slipped behind the hills and the air smelled of lavender, Orin noticed something strange. The lantern's light flickered. It had never flickered before, not once in his entire life. The villagers felt it too. Birds fell silent. Cats lifted their heads. The wind paused as if holding its breath. Mira's face tightened, growing pale. She whispered, "The lantern should never dim. Something, someone is calling it." That night, unable to sleep, Orin wandered toward the tower. His footsteps echoed softly. The shadows stretched long across the ground, as though they were reaching for answers as he was. When he reached the tower's base, he found something lying against the stone, a small silver feather glowing faintly. The moment Orin touched it, the feather warmed. A soft voice, not loud, not frightening, more like a memory of a lullaby, whispered, "The horizon is crying." A shiver traveled through him, but a gentle one, like a breeze brushing past his soul. He looked up at the lantern, which flickered again, and then brightened just long enough for him to see something moving in the sky. A shadow. No, a creature. Something graceful and immense, like a bird made of night itself, gliding silently across the stars. Its wings shimmered with silver feathers. Orin understood. This feather belonged to the Star Heron, a mythical creature Mira had spoken of so often. The heron protected the boundaries between dreams and waking life. If the lantern flickered, it meant the heron was hurt or lost. The next morning, Orin told his grandmother everything. Mira placed a gentle hand on his cheek. "Then you must follow the call, my child." So Orin left the village, carrying only a satchel, some bread, a small bottle of dew water, and the silver feather. The forest greeted him with soft bird song and beams of sunlight that filtered through emerald leaves. As he walked, he felt the feather tug gently in one direction, like a compass. He followed it. Hours passed. The trees grew taller, their trunks wide as houses. Then suddenly, the world opened into a meadow glowing with tiny golden lights. Fireflies drifted lazily in the air, forming patterns that looked almost like Constellations. A soft growl broke the silence. From the tall grass stepped a creature Orin had never seen before. A large wolf with fur black as ink and eyes bright as amber. Orin froze, but the wolf bowed its head, slowly, respectfully. Then it spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. Child of Lunara, you carry the heron's feather. I am Azhur, guardian of the firefly meadow. The Star Heron has fallen, beyond the river of echoes. Orin swallowed. Is it alive? Barely, the wolf said. Azhur offered Orin his back. They traveled across the meadow, through shimmering mists, to the river. The river of echoes was not like any other. Its surface whispered memories. If you dipped your fingers in, you would hear your own laughter, your own fears, your own forgotten dreams. On the far side of the river lay the Star Heron, its body dim and wings drooping. A faint silver glow pulsed weakly through its feathers. Orin approached slowly. The heron lifted its head, its eyes like swirling galaxies. Why does the lantern dim? Orin asked. The heron answered in a voice that felt like moonlight. Because a shadow tries to swallow the horizon, a creature born from forgotten fears. It hungers for the lantern's light. What can I do? Orin whispered. You must carry my feather to the lantern, the heron said. Place it inside the flame. It will restore me and seal the shadow beyond the horizon. Azhur nodded. But you must hurry. The shadow grows. Orin took a deep breath, clutching the feather. He and Azhur raced back toward Lunara. The sky darkened unnaturally. Trees shook though no wind moved them. A chill spread through the air. As they reached the hill overlooking the village, Orin saw it. A tall, twisting darkness curling toward the lantern tower like a hungry serpent. The lantern flickered violently. Orin ran, faster than he'd ever run. His legs burned, his lungs ached, but the feather glowed brighter with every step, pushing him forward. He burst into the tower, leaped up the spiral stairs, and reached the lantern room. The flame inside the glass sphere was struggling, shrinking. The shadow surrounded the tower now, whispering in 1,000 cracked voices, Give us the light. Orin raised the feather. It burned with silver brilliance. No, he said softly, this light belongs to hope. He pressed the feather into the lantern flame. There was a sound like a star being born, a deep resonant hum that vibrated through the air. The flame exploded into brilliant silver light, pouring out of the lantern in waves. The shadow recoiled, shrieking. Then it dissolved like smoke in sunlight. The light spread across the sky, clearing the darkness, warming the world. Down by the river of echoes, the Star Heron stood tall once more, wings glowing bright enough to rival the moon. It flew to Lunara, circled above the tower, and bowed to Orin. Azhur howled in celebration from the forest. Mira embraced Orin tightly when he returned home, whispering, You see, my dear, the lantern guides those who lose their hearts, but tonight you guided the lantern. That night, the village slept peacefully under the soft silver glow, and Orin, finally understanding his grandmother's words, slept deeper than he ever had. Because sometimes the bravest journeys begin with nothing more than curiosity and a single flicker of light. The echoes beneath the moon. Many moons passed after Orin saved the lantern and restored the Star Heron. Lunara was at peace again. The sky above the village glowed silver at night, and the lantern's beacon stretched gently across the horizon, guiding wandering travelers and calming restless spirits. But peace does not mean an ending. It simply means a new beginning is preparing its first breath. Orin had grown in small ways, not taller perhaps, but steadier. His heart no longer rushed with fear at every whisper of wind. His thoughts no longer trembled with doubts as they once had. He often visited the lantern tower, checking the flame as if it were an old friend. Mira would smile at him from the doorway of their wooden cottage. "Still guarding the light?" she teased gently. Orin would always answer, "I'm not guarding it. I'm listening to it." And he truly was, because sometimes, when the night was quiet enough, the lantern flame hummed soft melodies, not like words, not exactly like music, more like the world breathing. One night, as Orin sat on the tower stairs watching the moon rise, he heard something he had never heard before. A faint ringing sound, clear, delicate, like a bell being struck underwater. The lantern brightened slightly, then dimmed, not in danger, just responding. The ringing repeated, and this time Orin felt it in his chest. He hurried down the stairs and ran to Mira, who was sitting by the window knitting something shaped like a scarf. "Grandmother," he whispered, "have you ever heard a sound like a bell from the lantern?" Mira paused, her gentle hand freezing mid-stitch. Her eyes softened, then darkened in thought. "Once," she said, "long before you were born." "What does it mean?" Mira reached into an old drawer by her bedside. From it, she pulled out a folded piece of parchment, yellowed by time, edges softened as if touched many times by gentle hands. "We call it the moon bell call," she said. "It happens when a door between worlds begins to open." Orin's heart skipped. A door. For what? "For memories," Mira said quietly. "Memories that were lost or taken." Before Orin could ask more, a soft, fluttering sound brushed past the window. Silver feathers drifted down. The Star Heron landed gracefully beside their home, its wings glowing with the calm light of distant galaxies. "Orin," it said, "the lantern has awakened something that has slept for a long, long time." Mira bowed respectfully. Orin stood tall, trying to match her calmness. "What kind of something?" Orin asked. The heron's eyes dimmed. "The Moonbell Gate," it whispered, "is opening beneath the river of echoes." Orin's breath caught. He remembered the river, how it whispered memories, how it shimmered with soft, haunting light. "What lies beyond the Moonbell Gate?" Orin asked. The heron turned its head toward the horizon, its feathers trembling ever so slightly. "The memories that were forgotten, not by accident, but stolen." The words chilled the air. Azhur the black wolf emerged from the trees then, his amber eyes glowing warmly in the dark. I felt the river stirring, Azhur said. The heron nodded, and one voice calls for Orin. Orin felt the world tilt slightly. Me? Why? Because you carry the lantern's essence, said the heron, and because you still have a memory missing. Orin blinked. I do. The heron leaned close. Everyone has a lost memory, Orin. Most are small, a face we cannot recall, a song we forget how to finish. But your missing memory is important. Azhur stepped closer, lowering his head. We will take you to the Moonbell Gate, he said, but only if you choose to go. Orin looked at Mira. Her eyes were calm, sad, but proud. You are not the same boy who chased a flicker of light, she said softly. If the world calls you again, you must answer. Orin inhaled deeply. I'll go. At the River of Echoes, the night deepened as Orin, guided by Azhur and the heron, arrived at the river. The water glowed brighter than before, swirling with memories that shimmered like drifting stardust. But tonight, the center of the river pulsed with light, pale blue, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The sound of the ringing bell grew louder. The heron spoke. The Moonbell Gate lies beneath. Do I have to go underwater? Orin asked nervously. Not exactly, said Azhur. The river will take you where you need to go, if you trust it. Orin touched the surface. The water shimmered like warm silk, pulling gently at his fingers. He stepped deeper, up to his knees, then his waist. The river hummed softly, remembering him. Then suddenly it pulled. The water swirled around him, glowing, wrapping him in a cocoon of memory and light. Orin did not struggle. He let the river guide him. Everything went white. Beyond the gate. When the light faded, Orin found himself standing on a quiet plain under a silver moon much larger than his own. The air here felt softer, almost like breathing inside a dream. Floating around him were fragments of memories, glowing orbs drifting slowly through the sky like lanterns without strings. Some glowed warm gold, some shimmered cool blue, others pulsed with colors he had no names for. A voice drifted through the air, soft, familiar, gentle. Orin. He turned. A child stood before him, about his age, with hair like sunlight and eyes like the sky after rain. The child smiled sadly. You finally came, the child said. Orin's heart tugged painfully, as if it recognized the child but couldn't place why. Who are you? He asked softly. The child stepped closer. I'm the memory you lost, the child said, the one that was taken from you. Orin's breath trembled. Taken by what? The child pointed behind him. Orin turned. Across the plain, a tall shape moved, slender, shifting, almost like smoke, but with a faint, sorrowful glow. It wasn't like the shadow that attacked Lunara. This one felt Lonely, the child whispered. It didn't steal me to hurt you. It stole me because it was afraid. Afraid? Orin repeated. Of what? Of fading, the child said. It is a memory shadow. It survives on forgotten moments. Orin stepped forward, heart softening. Then how do I take you back? He asked. The child smiled. Not by fighting, by remembering. The world began to shimmer. The orbs of memories drifted closer, forming a circle around Orin. He reached his hand toward the child. Warmth filled the air, and then a flash of light, a laugh, a small hand holding his, a field of yellow flowers, and Orin gasping as he whispered, I, I remember you. You were my friend before you vanished. The child nodded, tears shimmering. I didn't vanish. I was taken, and you spent years thinking I was just a dream. Orin took the child's hand. The memory shadow behind them began to shrink, soften, and finally dissolve into a soft wisp of light, freed from its hunger. The world brightened. The Moonbell Gate pulsed. It's time to go back, the child said, but don't worry. I'll always be a part of you now. Orin felt the light surround him again. Everything faded. Back in Lunara, Orin opened his eyes to find himself lying beside the river. Azhur's warm nose nuzzled his cheek. The heron stood watchfully. Mira waited on the bank, her eyes wet with held-back tears. Are you all right? She whispered. Orin sat up slowly. I got my memory back, he said softly. A part of me I thought never existed. Mira smiled gently, brushing his hair. That is the power of the moon bell. It reveals the truths we hide even from ourselves. Azhur bowed. The gate is quiet again. The heron nodded. Because Orin answered its call. Orin looked at the lantern tower in the distance. Its flame glowed steady, warm, calm, but now it felt deeper, fuller, because it carried his memory too. And Orin understood something very important. The lantern didn't just guide lost travelers. It guided lost pieces of the heart. The night the stars stopped moving. After Orin returned from the Moonbell Gate, life in Lunara settled into a gentle harmony again. The nights felt warmer. Dreams came easier. The lantern in the tower hummed with a richer light, as if carrying a secret song beneath its flame. Orin felt different too, more complete, as though a locked door inside him had finally been opened. But with the return of his forgotten memory, something else awakened, something old, buried beneath time. It began quietly. The first sign. One evening, Orin sat outside his home with Mira, watching the constellations drift gracefully across the sky. The air smelled of pine and cool river winds. Mira was telling him a story about Azhur's first winter as a guardian wolf, when suddenly Orin frowned. Grandmother, the stars. What about them? They've stopped moving. Mira looked up. Her eyes narrowed, then widened. She inhaled sharply, her knitting falling from her hands. That should be impossible, because in Lunara the stars never stayed still. They flowed slowly across the sky like glowing fish swimming in a cosmic river. But now they were frozen. Every constellation, every shimmer, every silver spark paused, as if the sky itself was holding its breath. A moment later, the lantern in the tower flickered once, then twice. Then it dimmed to half its usual brightness. A deep, vibrating hum rolled through the ground, so soft it felt more like a heartbeat than a sound. Mira stood abruptly. Orin, fetch Azhur and the heron, now. Orin ran. Azhur's warning. He found Azhur at the forest edge, staring upward, fur bristling. You feel it too? Orin asked breathlessly. Azhur growled low. The sky has been silenced. Silenced? Orin repeated. Yes, something is holding the stars, as if gripping them. Before Orin could ask more, a silver ripple swept over the treetops. The Star Heron descended, landing with unusual heaviness, its wings drooping, glowing dimmer than before. Heron? Orin asked softly. The great bird trembled. The stars are trapped, it whispered. Someone has taken hold of the celestial loom. Orin blinked. The what? Azhur answered for the heron. The loom is older than all the worlds. It weaves time into light and light into fate. The heron nodded weakly. When the loom stops, destiny cannot breathe. Orin felt cold. What does that mean for Lunara? Azhur's eyes darkened. It means that if the stars stay frozen, he paused. Everything that lives may forget how to move forward. Orin's breath caught. Who could freeze the stars? The heron closed its eyes. A being called the Weaver of Stillness, a quiet force that feeds not on fear, not on memory, but on stopped time. And it's here? Orin whispered. The heron shook its head. No, but it is reaching toward us, through the lantern. Orin stared, heart pounding. The lantern is connected to the stars. Yes, the heron said. It is a child flame of the celestial loom, a small piece of the greater weave. Azhur stepped closer, and someone has discovered it. The lantern darkens. They hurried back to the village. A faint crowd had gathered around the lantern tower, villagers murmuring nervously, pointing up at the dimming glow. Orin could feel it, a gentle pull, a tug toward the tower, as if the lantern were calling his name. Mira approached them, her face pale but calm. It flickers every 30 seconds, she said, like it's being drained. The heron lowered its head. The weaver is siphoning its light. How? Orin asked, voice shaking. The heron looked at him with sorrow. Through the missing memory you reclaimed. Orin froze. My memory? But I thought I fixed it. You did, the heron said gently. But when it was stolen long ago, it left a scar, A small tear between your heart and the stars. The weaver found it. Orin's stomach clenched. So this is my fault? Azhur growled at the suggestion. Do not speak nonsense, he said firmly. No child causes cosmic wounds. The weaver is using what was done to you, twisting it. Mira cupped Orin's face in her hands. You listen to me, Orin, she whispered. There is no guilt in you, only light. The lantern flickered violently then, the strongest shake yet. The crowd gasped. A tiny thread of light, barely visible, extended from the lantern flame into the sky. Orin felt it pierce his chest, not painfully, but unmistakably. A connection, a call. The heron's voice echoed softly. The weaver is trying to pull the lantern's light through you. But why me? Orin whispered. Azhur answered, because you carry something unique. You have walked beyond the Moonbell Gate. You have touched forgotten truth. You are a bridge between worlds, and bridges can be used or defended. Orin breathed slowly, steadying himself. So what do we do? The heron spread its wings, weakly but with determination. We must go to the celestial loom, Orin blinked. Go, where the stars are woven. Yes, the heron said. We must enter the sky. Azhur nodded. The lantern will open the way, but only for one who carries its essence. Orin swallowed hard. You mean me? Mira bowed her head, tears shimmering. You always belong to the light, my child. The path to the stars. The lantern flickered again, but this time, instead of dimming, it glowed brighter for a moment, casting a long beam straight upward. A shimmering staircase of light formed, rising into the unmoving stars. Villagers fell silent. Even the wind stopped to listen. The heron stepped beside Orin. Azhur and I will follow, but only you can lead. Azhur nudged Orin gently with his muzzle. We will not leave your side. Orin looked up at the shining steps, endless, silent, made of pure starlight. His heart shook, his legs trembled, but he nodded. I'm ready. Mira hugged him tightly. Remember, she whispered into his ear, the light doesn't choose those who are fearless. It chooses those who continue walking despite the fear. Orin stepped onto the first stair. It felt warm, like holding a memory you love. The heron took flight behind him. Azhur bounded up the steps beside him. The village watched in awe as they ascended, slowly, steadily, into the frozen sky. Up toward the celestial loom. Up toward the stillness gripping the stars. Up toward the weaver waiting in the dark. Orin didn't look back because he knew. This time, the lantern wasn't guiding him. He was guiding the lantern.